Welcome back to more mother-in-law stories where users share their crazy experiences with their own mother-in-laws, and we might even feel a little bit better about our own mother-in-law. If you are new to my channel, please don't forget to subscribe to join our awesome community, and without any further ado, let's dive right into the stories. And guys, the first mother-in-law story is about an insane woman who tried to not only kill OP's dog, but also steal her husband. Okay, I'm about to lose my mind. My husband and I have been together for 3 years, married for 1. I was forewarned by my husband that his mom is top-notch crazy. But she is literally blowing my mind with the level of crazy. I feel like I am in the Truman Show and this is all one big joke. Background on me: I am non-confrontational, an overpleaser, and have a really hard time when people don't like me. And because I am so neurotic about my relationships and that I want to please everyone, I hardly ever have issues with anyone in my life. But I have multiple ulcers to prove that niceness is not always the answer. Where to start? My husband is very on and off with his mom. He is her only child. They will be fine, aka him putting up with her BS till he reaches a breaking point and then he stops talking to her. We believe she is a narcissist, a bit delusional, and also heavily abusing Xanax. She has always been overly obsessed with my husband, and so in turn I am a threat. When I met my husband, he was in a really bad place and getting his life together. He is bipolar and was not getting help for it. Anytime he tried to get help or was getting better, she would do something completely destructive to ruin it because she wants him broken and dependent on her. So when I met, they were not speaking, but at least once a year he feels guilty and reaches out to her and tries to fix it. When we were dating, I was constantly put in the middle, protecting him but also trying to decipher her feelings because he desperately wanted to have her in his life. But she is toxic. They would get in a fight and she would immediately call me to try and tell me he is crazy and rude and try to turn me against him. Obviously, I never believed her, because I was normally there when they would get in a fight on the phone and I heard the whole conversation, and it was her screaming at the top of her lungs about nothing at all. She gives things with a shady purpose to hold it over your head forever. Anything she does comes with strings. So when we got engaged and started planning our wedding, which I won't get super into because she was horrible the whole time, but we made it a point that she was not going to pay for anything for our wedding because we wanted it to be about us and not her. We also did not want anything held over our heads for the rest of our lives, so my parents, my husband and I paid for our whole wedding. But my mother-in-law decided she wanted to throw a rehearsal dinner, which we did not ask her to. At first, the place we were having the dinner at was willing to give us a huge discount because of how big our party was, but my mother-in-law single-handedly bullied the coordinator to the point where she told her she could not work with her anymore and another coordinator was put on our party. And our dinner became extremely more expensive because of how awful she was. The whole dinner was a "I love my son" tribute party and she never spoke of me at all the whole night. But I did not care because it was her dinner that I never asked for. So, cut to our wedding day, she shows up an hour late to the ceremony, so we had to start an hour late. Not one apology, nothing, and apparently she was going around to all our friends and family, crap talking us through the whole reception. A year ago, she showed up unannounced to our home to bring us random crap. We had a 7-month-old puppy, she hates dogs and knows we have one. She came in and we made sure the dog did not get near her and then she left. It was a surprisingly decent visit, she was pleasant. Cut to Thanksgiving. We are all sitting down with all my husband's extended family and my mother-in-law sits next to me. I am in the middle of a conversation with his uncle and she interrupts and says, "Your dog attacked me, I had to go to the ER." And I brush it off because it is normal for her to make these crazy claims and all I say is, "Aw, I'm sorry you feel that way," because she's not rational at all. So we obviously decide to leave abruptly. And as she hugs my husband, she whispers, "Your dog did attack me and your wife doesn't care at all." And my husband says back, "Mom, we both know that's not true," and we leave. For the next month, she progressively got worse, calling almost daily, screaming about how my dog is vicious and she's going to call animal control and the police to get her put down. My husband, in one conversation when he finally got a chance to speak over the screaming, says, "Mom, we have a baby cam in the living room where we were the whole time. I checked it. The dog did not even get near you. I can send you the footage." She freaks out, screaming about how I am a witch and I stole him away and that my family is perfect and he can go be with his new family, and she starts claiming my husband's aunt took her to the ER. So my husband hangs up, calls his aunt immediately, and she says no, she never took her to the ER, and hangs up because no one wants to upset this woman because she's like, light your house on fire, slash your tires, crazy. By the way, I love how that rhymes. One day she sat outside our house for 5 hours while neither of us were home, called me 102 times, my husband 180 times, and his business partner about 15 times. When I got home, I found all the gifts and things we had given her over the past 3 years sitting on our doorstep, along with a dog treat that I am 99% sure was poisoned. Our building has a door code, so I have no idea how she got in. It is so creepy. My husband blocked her on everything, and for the next year she went around to his whole family saying that I am the reason they are not speaking and that I am changing him, I am tearing her family apart. She is always the victim, she's never done anything wrong in her life apparently. So up to this week my husband had unblocked her months ago because he felt bad and guilty, and she will call like once a month, and right when he answers it, she is screaming already. She has alienated herself and is incredibly lonely because of her behavior, because she doesn't only do this to my husband, she does it to everyone. She is mean and vindictive. One time at his cousin's wedding, my mother-in-law, her niece and I were talking, and she says to her niece,
"Your dad was talking about you the other day, but I really don't think I should tell you. He says he hates you and you're dead to him."
And then she sat there and consoled her crying. She is a serious psychopath. I remember walking away from that and telling my husband, and both of us were so grossed out. But the other day she called and my husband decided to answer it with the glimmer of hope that she's given up this whole vendetta. He answers and the first thing she says is,
"Are you alone? Because I would really like to speak to my son for once. Can we meet somewhere other than your house?"
And my husband says, "Sure, you're not allowed in my home anyway, to protect my wife and my dog." So they meet up, and for 2 hours she cycles through the same sob stories.
"Your dog attacked me, your wife is a witch, I'm all alone and sick and probably going to die."
She fakes illnesses regularly. Then she decides to throw this curveball.
"Remember when we met with your wife's family for dinner? They only talked about their other daughter the whole time. Her own family doesn't even like her."
Which is not true at all, obviously. She just sits at her home alone in her thoughts, making up random crap to support her crazy narrative. It is honestly insane and does not feel real at all to me that she is a real person. I support whatever my husband needs to feel at peace with his relationship with his mom, but I have made it very clear to him that I don't trust her and have no plans of having a relationship with her because she actively tries to attack my marriage and says horrible things about me when I have done nothing but be nice to her. When things were good, I was the one making sure we went to all family events, kept her in the loop with our life. Does anyone have any advice at all? I have set all the boundaries I can, but I am losing my mind slowly. What happens when we start having kids? I should also add that my husband stands up for me and our marriage every time she attacks and says horrible things. He's been really great through all of it, and the fact that he sees the crazy and doesn't enable it is the only reason I put up with all of this. My family and parents have been so great and basically adopted my husband emotionally. Luckily, his parents divorced when he was really young and they both remarried, and my husband's dad and stepmom are also so supportive and great. I gotta say guys, this mother-in-law just has everything. Above all, what is probably the worst thing is that she's a pathological liar who makes up crazy stories to hurt, essentially to hurt her son, even though she probably thinks that she is protecting him. And by the way, if you have watched until here, please don't forget to post some star emojis in the comments to show your support. Thank you very much in advance, your support really means the world to me. And the next one is titled, "justnomil forgets my son's EpiPen." So I need some advice on how to approach my relationship with my husband. I had to make this on a throwaway account as H has read it as well. I saw a similar situation to what I am experiencing and thought I could get some insight. I, 32 female, and H, 35 male, have been married for 8 years, and my just no mother-in-law has always had a say in our relationship when I was just a girlfriend and everything was fine. But as soon as I had a ring on my finger, she has been Satan's ally through and through. She even tried to ruin the proposal H had been planning for over 6 months, but that is another story. We have a dear son, DS, who is 4, nearly 5, and we found out a couple of years ago that he has a deadly peanut and almond, basically no nuts, allergy. I am sure you can see where this is going. Justnomil is a purist, as she calls herself, no modern medicine, no vaccines, etc. H actually had vaccines when he was 18, and she threw a fit when I said that she was not allowed to be near dear son until she was vaccinated, which to her credit she did. I asked for proof, don't worry. Anyway, whenever we left dear son with just no mother-in-law, just yes father-in-law has always been there. I've tried to limit contact as much as I can, but we live in the same town, only 10 minutes apart. My own parents live over an hour away. Just yes father-in-law is an amazing man who does not let Justnomil go too far when he is there, of course, and honestly is probably one of the main reasons my marriage has lasted, as when Justnomil goes too far he steps in. My husband is their only son. They also have a daughter and she's also great. There's luckily only one crazy in this family, so the main event of this is that Justnomil grumbled the first few times she took my son out due to us making sure that she carried his EpiPen. But I never heard more about this until the last time she took my son out. Just yes father-in-law was busy, so it would be just her. She had some other health issues, so I suggested that we reschedule, but husband and I had a date night planned, so I relented and we left. She was to take my son out to dinner as a grandma/grandson date, which okay, is cute when it is not her. We had just finished our main course when his phone rang. It was Justnomil, but he did not pick up. We discussed it for a second, but decided that if it was urgent she would call back. Then my phone rang with just yes father-in-law. My son was being taken to the hospital as he has ingested some peanuts and we needed to get there. Of course we left right away, and when we got there, Justnomil was crying in the waiting room. I tried to get her to talk to me, but frankly she was blubbering and all I cared about was my dear son. We went up to the desk and they paged us through. Justnomil tried to get through, but they said only parents were allowed, which probably was a good thing with what happened next. We got into the room and the doctor told us that dear son was going to be okay, then that whilst it had been a bad reaction, the restaurant had called the hospital in time. My son was visibly shaken up and I stayed with him a few minutes calming him down before talking to the doctor again. I asked him if he could issue a new EpiPen to replace the one that had been used. This is when he looked down at his record sheet and said that an EpiPen had been used in the ambulance, but it was not ours. I thanked him and did not think more about it. We were cleared to bring my son home and we did. Just yes father-in-law came to pick up Justnomil up, who wanted to come and spend the night at our place to watch over her baby, but husband put his foot down. We left. The next morning my in-laws came over to see my son and Justnomil pulls out my son's bag and hands it to me, saying that they left it at home when they went out. This is when my son pops up with, "No Mimi, you said to leave it there." I asked her what he meant and she basically said that she had left his bag there along with his EpiPen. I asked her again if she had really left his EpiPen at her place, and without acting shocked she just said yes. Guys, I probably could have dealt with this better, but I flew into a rage telling her that if the restaurant had not called 911 in time, my son could be dead, and a bunch of other names I won't go into detail because I'm not overly proud about it. She left crying and just yes father-in-law followed after her, not really saying anything to me. I want to go no contact with her for a while. She left my son's EpiPen behind when she knows it is one of my main rules. Just yes father-in-law says that he is sorry for not being there, and guys, it is not his fault. H wants me to apologize to my Justnomil for what I said. I just don't know what to do. I know my son was fine, but I've never been so scared in my life. It could have gone a lot worse if they hadn't been out in public. It has been a few days and I have not spoken to either of my in-laws. I have completely blanked Justnomil and sent only a few short replies to just yes father-in-law. H is starting to act distant towards me and saying that it is my fault that his mother is so upset and that I should know better than to talk to her like that. I am thinking about taking my son and going to stay with my parents for a few days. And guys, I don't know why, but this seems to be a recurring theme in these Just No Mil stories, that the crazy Just No mother-in-laws seemingly don't understand or don't want to understand that some people have allergies, for example against peanuts, and if they ingest them, that this can have absolutely serious issues. I mean, really, this is not only about disrespecting the parents, but also about disrespecting the child, obviously. And the last one is titled Long Revenge on My Mother-in-Law. Longtime lurker and decided to share my revenge story, which has not concluded. Some background: my wife has 2 sisters, her father passed and he was a very intelligent and kind person that I look up to years after his passing. Mother-in-law is still alive and doing horribly. Mother-in-law has always been a difficult person, maybe straight up bitch would be more appropriate, used to cheat on her husband, even taking my wife, then 4 to 5 years old, with her to meet and F other guys. They were from a small town and moved to a bigger city when the problem got too much to handle for my father-in-law. He had an old school mentality and did not want to leave his wife, even though he knew about her many affairs because he took on the responsibility of 3 daughters. Everything he did was only for his daughters, and mother-in-law became also a hidden alcoholic in time, hiding beers and wine through the house or finding a pretext to go out to her car where she could drink more. She fought endlessly with my wife, who is older, now 33. Threw her out of the house, made her sleep on benches in the car later on, screaming, hair pulling, and just being a complete piece of work without reason. Example: my wife worked 2 jobs to cover her university expenses, and every night after getting back from school/work at 2 to 3 a.m, mother-in-law would come waltzing at 7 a.m. in the room and open the curtains, wake her up and just start fighting. Mother-in-law never agreed to the university my wife went to, but nevertheless she bragged in her hometown as if she was the one paying and motivating my wife to study. I could go on with more examples: driving completely drunk with the little sister, 6 to 7 years old back then, 2006 to 2007, in her car, reminding me and my then girlfriend, now wife, that she gave us 10 euros to charge our phone credits as if the world depended on it. Needless to say, we paid every single cent and interest back even if she didn't ask for it. This is where we start. My wife's family moved to another country in 2002. Mother-in-law could not stand me from the get-go, spoke to my mother about breaking us up. I was 16 and my wife 17 then when we met, 2001, she was always against us even as we moved in together for the first time. And this was not a teenager flick anymore, would start fights with me about my family and the work I do. I started in construction when I moved out of the country to be with my then girlfriend. Years go by and we move from this city where mother-in-law and the rest of the family reside. Not far, about 150 miles, but to better jobs and a nicer place. This is 2017 already, 3 years pass by, and during these years I slowly planted the idea that her middle sister could also move here with us. We could search a job for her and ask her to pay only a part of the rent after she works for 2 months. 2010 comes and the middle sister is not happy. She is the one fighting now with her mother, so of course she wants out. So again I bring it up with my wife and insist that we cannot let her mother ruin everything. Both agree and the middle sister moves in. We find a job and she likes the place, the pay, even falls in love with her now husband. She is really happy and laughing all the time. Needless to say that my mother-in-law is destroyed. Now the only sister remaining is the little one, born when mother-in-law was in 40. But she is too little for mother-in-law to start harassing and fighting with her, so she becomes remorseful, starts calling and saying that she loves her daughters and now she will die alone. She even stopped drinking for a short while, but old habits die very hard. In this case it is still very much alive. End of 2010, I find another job in another country. Yes, this is in Europe, so we move again, leaving the middle sister behind with her own place and a new life. With all the love mother-in-law spreads around, the little sister does poorly in school, is name-called in her school and genuinely unhappy. My wife starts doing homework with her via Skype until the situation is unbearable, so again, I just hint that we could take a bigger apartment and get the little sister here with us. She could learn another language and we could help her achieve her potential. I asked the little sister what she thought about this idea and she is thrilled, but I repeated myself that this is only an idea to get her head thinking already in March. By July, when school is over, she wants to desperately come to us and live with us, and we follow through. September 2012 and she starts the school here. Difficult because of the language barrier, but she's tough and intelligent. All the sisters are like that. We start from scratch. Keep in mind she is 12 now, but cannot tell quickly how much 6 plus 9 is without counting. We spend nights and days learning. I teach her the language and my wife math, geography and so on. I was the only one working and my wife pregnant with our first daughter. We pull through all of this and mother-in-law is just lonely. Nobody wants her in their homes. She comes visiting, but if they see that she drank beforehand, she is sent away. Again she started to spread the
"I love you"
without hearing any reply, just silence or an "okay mom." Now she does not have anybody. She even tried living with another guy, but as soon as the mask fell off and he recognized who and how she was, they ended. She is still spreading lies about him, thinking that we all lived in a cave without knowing who she really is. Sometimes she calls and cries that nobody calls her, not her daughters nor her older sister. I laugh about it. I am happy. I worked so hard to get this result and I cannot wait for her to be sick and wither away. I cannot put in words how alone she is and how miserable she feels. I know it will remain like this until she dies. I will make sure of it. My watch never ends. And guys, unfortunately, we have already reached the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed today's stories, and if you haven't already, please also go to patreon.com/ripeyoutube, where I upload exclusive Reddit videos starting at just $3 a month. This is a great way to support me in case you are interested, and the chance for me to become independent from YouTube revenue. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe and like the video, and I hope to see you again tomorrow.